Hello, and welcome back to Honest Now, where we recap everything that happened in politics that day. My name is Onest, known as Honest Press across the socials. Welcome back. Of course, the big news of today is that this big, ugly bill did pass the House. Well, last night, we still had hopes that something might manifest itself and the bill would not pass. Because the first vote was to progress with the bill and to bring it to the floor. And so 16 Republicans were not voting, then 9 of them were not voting, 8 of them were not voting. They were flipping their votes from yes to no and back and forth. And then around 2:30 a.m., finally, that passed. It was 219 to 213 vote, and so the bill then was brought to the floor. Now, at 3:28 a.m. Eastern Time, local time, the debate started. And Hakeem Jeffries, the leader of the Democrats, asked this question. Take a look.
The question, if Republicans were so proud of this one big ugly bill, why did debate begin at 3:28 a.m. in the morning?
And then he continued speaking and holding the floor until around 1:40 p.m. God bless his soul. And this certainly postponed the vote. And then the bill passed, as you see here, 218 to 214. They needed 217 votes for this bill to pass. And so now this is our new reality. Of course, the bill will then travel to the White House, where President Trump, of course, will eagerly sign it. Mike Johnson, as you see here, also signed the bill at the House right after the voting with cheers and joy and a lot of celebration. Now, when it comes to celebration, what are we going to celebrate? Here's a readout. President Trump's domestic policy bill that passed the House on Thursday would reportedly add $3.4 trillion to the federal debt over the next decade, adding to the existing $29 trillion owned. The U.S. will pay more than $1 trillion in interest next year alone, surpassing Medicare spending for the first time. Now, what we need to know is that countries issue bonds to investors at home and abroad. For instance, Japan, despite having the highest debt to GDP ratio among wealthy nations, benefits from nearly 90% of its debt being held domestically, which helps keep its economy stable. Now, in contrast, nearly a third of U.S. debt, about $8.5 trillion, is owned by foreign investors, meaning the interest payments flow overseas. And this is something we need to consider. How will our economy look? Because we're focusing so much on Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP benefits that will be taken away. 17 million people will be losing their coverage. And this is horrible. And kids will go hungry. This is devastating. And FEMA money is being used to build these concentration camps. Devastating as well. And we already see them. And by the way, this alligator Alcatraz camp, as you see here, it flooded on July 1st. And will that be used as a method to terrorize people who already reportedly have entered this camp or not? Remains to be seen, but it kind of looks ugly, and the bill looks very ugly. But we also have to consider how our economy is going to look, because again, $1 trillion, this is just an interest alone in year one on this new debt that will manifest itself. So we have to see what will work. What I can suggest to you, and this is from my personal experience, if you are about to lose your coverage, check what you can accomplish on a state level, especially if you are in blue state. Is there any coverage, any program available for you that you can switch to or partially switch to? Don't really try to sit and wait. Be more proactive to see what you can qualify for. So you're the first in line, so to speak, to get that. All right? Now, in international news, Trump also managed to speak to Vladimir Putin today for about an hour. Here's a readout. The call lasted nearly an hour with both leaders speaking in businesslike. Trump informed Putin about the passage of his economic bill. Mind you, this hasn't passed by that time yet. Putin congratulated Trump on U.S. Independence Day, acknowledging Russia's role in American statehood. Wait a minute here. What role in American statehood did Russia play? Okay. Now, in Middle East and Iran, they discussed the situation around Iran and broader Middle East. Then they touched on the idea of exchanging films that promote traditional values shared by Russia and the US administration. And let's hold here. Russia is prohibiting even to think about embracing LGBTQ plus community. They're jailing people for that. Are these the traditional values that we will be now sort of promoting in the United States, or is already aligning with us? Because one thing is not to celebrate publicly Pride Month or declare it as a Pride Month. Another story is to embrace Russian values. Also, women there are for the kitchen and making babies. And if your husband or your significant other decides to hit you in the face or elsewhere, he will not be jailed because that's okay. Are those the values we will be promoting? Let's continue. They didn't discuss a specific meeting date, but the possibility was left open for them to meet. They say, quote, the idea hangs in the air. Now, Putin reaffirmed Russia's readiness for continued negotiations with Ukraine, stressing that Russia would not back down from its goals to resolve the conflict, meaning there will be fighting. They noted that negotiations in Istanbul would remain bilateral between Russia and Ukraine with no specific date for the third round. And let's catch up here real quick. How did the first meeting or the first round of talks in Istanbul go? Russia was there demanding Ukraine to surrender. Then, years later, was the second round, which was recently, where again, Russia said, surrender. Give me all the territories, more than they actually occupied, and also create a buffer zone and no military aid and demilitarize, denazify Ukraine, and also make Russian the main language and bring the Moscow Orthodox Church, which is very much connected to their FSB service, back to Ukraine. And so all of that is just bogus. And now they're thinking about the third round, and yet again, they don't have any date. And Putin openly so said they're here to conquer Ukraine. And this will not be enough. Ukraine will not be the final destination. So Trump reiterated his desire for an early end to hostilities in Ukraine, but the topic of halting U.S. arms supplies to Ukraine wasn't addressed. Certainly, it wasn't addressed, but yesterday, and mind you, yesterday I recapped the news for July 2nd, so please take a look. And there I mentioned and actually showed you videos from State Department press briefing. This was yesterday, where State Department was explaining why United States is halting or withholding military aid that was allocated by the Biden administration to Ukraine. And they say, well, we don't have enough for us, for ourselves, and we're supplying Israel with a lot of military aid because that aligns with our America First policy. And then they said, well, there should be a ceasefire and diplomatic solution.
To have people at the table, that this can only be solved diplomatically.
And yesterday I explained why they're talking about it, because right now to have a ceasefire would only benefit Vladimir Putin and nobody else, because he is advancing and Ukraine is also not having any military aid sent there. When it comes to military aid to Ukraine, today, Trump administration also started criticizing Biden administration for their reckless amounts of military aid sent to Ukraine. Now, let's not forget that actually Pentagon did replenish its stockpiles, allocating money to buy the old stuff from themselves and send it to Ukraine and use this income, so to speak, to buy new arms, right? Investing in new planes, in new defense systems, and just rejuvenating the entire stockpile. Now, what we need to understand, under President Biden, US imposed around 170 sanctions on Russian companies when it comes to economy or oil sales or banking system. Now, under President Trump, there has been 0 sanctions passed. Now, it was also reported a couple of days ago and then confirmed today that Iran did hack, allegedly, Trump's administration emails, and they have downloaded about 100 gigabytes from Susie Wiles and from those close to Trump. And apparently all of that is really about any transactions and business dealings. If they will release it or not, we'll have to see. They did the same thing during the election in 2024 as well. And lastly, we have heard that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has canceled his trip to South Korea and Japan. Japan also opted out of any 2+2 meetings. They don't want to have any conversation with the Trump administration due to failed deals. And also, I did cover the G7. I saw the Japanese delegation there. They were very upset that they could not get any deal, any trade deal there. About the BRICS summit that is coming very soon. The BRICS summit will not have any big leaders in attendance, meaning President Xi Jinping is not attending and Vladimir Putin is not attending either, which sort of puts Prime Minister Modi, Prime Minister of India, Modi, in the spotlight. And so it is expected for him to sort of headline the meetings there and use it to India's advantage. And let's finish on a good note. President Zelensky is in Denmark today. He was pushing the European Union, because European Union leaders were there as well, to impose stricter sanctions on Russia. And while there, he honored an 11-year-old gentleman from Denmark who raised money for children in Ukraine. Take a look.
Hi, Jens. That is a surprise. Yeah? I'm happy to see you. Happy to meet you. Hi.
Hi, Colin.
Good to see you.
Hi, pretty good. You too.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. And I'm very thankful from all our people. First of all, from all our children. And you know it. And they are under attacks, under Russian attacks. But they are trying to survive. And they survive because they love Ukraine, because they have friends. And you're a big friend of Ukraine. Thanks for this backpacks, yes? Yeah. In English, backpacks that you did, that you collect money and helped our Ukrainian children. From all our children, we're honored that we have such friends from Denmark. My congratulations, yes. That is for you.
Så får der nok. Smile.
There are good people in this world. And that's what I want to leave you with. Tomorrow, we're going to be with a full newsroom briefing here because our audience is global, 112 countries represented. So just because it's holiday in the United States, we shouldn't be going clueless into the weekend. So expect the news briefing tomorrow and a little bit earlier, around 1 p.m. NYC time. And also, another video recap will be presented tomorrow as well. Now, if you were not the person, or you are not the person cheering for this big, beautiful bill to pass, especially with the holiday coming in tomorrow, I really suggest you to shut down television, to consume factual news, to read and know just enough for you to be informed and also make informed decisions. But don't give them the benefit of driving you crazy because you do not deserve it. We need to stay calm, cool, collected. And as I always say, keep your head on a swivel. All right. And I'll see you tomorrow.